Our solar system. Have you ever looked up into the sky and wondered what was there? Higher than the birds, past the clouds, and farther than the moon, a whole host of fascinating objects spinning out of space. Let's imagine for a moment that we can leave the Earth behind and explore the solar system that surrounds it. We call it solar system because everything in it centered around the sun, and solar means something to do with the sun. The sun is a star, just like many of the stars that you can see in the night sky, just many times closer to us. Still, the sun is very, very, very far away from the Earth, almost 93 million miles away. That's why it looks so small, even though it's the biggest object in the solar system. In fact, the sun makes up more than 99% of the mass in the solar system. If you put all the planets, moons, asteroids, comets, and everything else in the solar system together, they will make up less than 0.25% of it. And the sun is so big that it's more than 100 times wider than the Earth. It's like a giant jar. You could fit more than 1 million Earths into it. More than that, the sun is what holds the solar system together. Its massive gravity is what keeps the Earth and all the other planets circling around it instead of drifting off into the space. The sun is also what allows us to live on Earth. Without the sun, there will be no heat, there will be no light. Plants could not grow, water will freeze, and nothing could survive. The sun gives us heat and light because it is always burning. It's a giant ball of gas, mostly hydrogen and helium, and it burns at millions of degrees in its center. Let's leave the sun now to explore the planets. As we move away from the sun, the first planet we will encounter is Mercury. Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system, much smaller than Earth, and one of only 5 planets you can see from the Earth using nothing but your eyes. Of course, it won't look much like a planet. It looks more like a bright star, and many nights you can see it at the horizon near to sunrise and sunset. Mercury is lots of like our moon. It's small and has a rocky surface with craters on it. It has no moon of its own and no air to breathe. You probably wouldn't enjoy a visit to Mercury since temperatures are boiling hot in the sun and freezing cold in the shade. Something interesting about Mercury is that the fastest planet to go around the sun. It only takes 88 days. Next is Venus, the second planet. Some people call Venus Earth's sister. Planets are very close in size and gravity, but they are very different on the surface. First of all, it is very hot. Venus is the hottest planet in the solar system. It's not as close to the sun as Mercury, but its thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide helps the heat and stay warmer than its neighbor. It has a thick atmosphere, but it has no one you could breathe. It is mostly made of carbon dioxide and dozens of clouds of sulfuric acid. Venus might be not fun to visit, but it is beautiful to look at it. It is the second brightest object in the night sky. The only thing brighter is than the moon. If you are looking at the sunrise or a sunset, then suddenly notice what looks like a very bright star. You're probably looking at Venus. After Venus comes Earth, the third planet away from the sun. Of course, you know all about Earth because that's the planet we live. Earth is what's called a Goldilocks planet because it's not too hot and not too cold. It's just right. As far as we know, Earth is the only planet to have living things. Let's leave the Earth again for a moment though and visit the Mars. Mars is the fourth planet away from the sun. Mars is known as red planet because iron oxide in the soil gives a reddish color. Mars is smaller than Venus and Earth, but it's larger than Mercury. It is cold and rocky, with a thin atmosphere made of carbon dioxide and oxygen. There is water ice on Mars. Scientists are very interested in Mars because they think that it can help some special equipment. Rockets and probes have already been sent there to gain more information about the planet. Right now, there are 2 special robots exploring the Mars, sending information back to Earth. Mars is the first planet we visited today besides the Earth to have its own moons. It's like 2, although they are not big and round like our moon. Mars moons are small and irregular. Scientists think they may be captured asteroids. Maybe they came from the big asteroid belt that is between Mars and Jupiter. An asteroid belt is a big ring of asteroids or rocky objects orbiting the Sun. Jupiter comes next, the 5th planet in the solar system. Jupiter is the largest planet and is something called a gas giant. It is called this because it is really big and made mostly of gases. Jupiter is so big that you will have 11 Earths and just scratch across its middle. Jupiter is also the 3rd brightest object in the night sky. Only Venus and the Moon are brighter. You can usually find Jupiter higher in the sky than Venus, since Jupiter is away from the Sun and not towards it. Jupiter has been at least 67 moons that circle around it, but 55 of them are very small, only about as big as a mountain or smaller. Some of its moons are very large, and at least 2 of them is about the same size as planet Mercury. One of its moons is the largest moon in the solar system. Some of these large moons can be seen from Earth in your backyard with a telescope. People cannot land on Jupiter because it is made of gas. There is no ground to land on. Even if there was somewhere to land, Jupiter is covered by terrible storms, much worse than even strongest storms on Earth. One storm that we know about it is the Earth. We can call the Great Red Spot because that's what it looks like, and it's going to for at least 200 years. After Jupiter comes Saturn, another gas giant. Saturn is famous of its beautiful rings. Although they look solid for a distance, the rings are actually made of many small ice particles, as well as rocks and dust. Saturn also has more than 60 moons orbiting around it, some as large as planet Mercury and many smaller. Something interesting about Sun is that even though if it's large dense, that means if you could find a bathtub large enough to put Saturn in it, it will float instead of sink. The Saturn is the farthest planet that can be seen from the Earth without the help of a telescope. After than Saturn comes Uranus, the 7th planet from the Sun. Uranus is another gas giant, but it is much smaller than Saturn and Jupiter. Unlike any other planet in the solar system, it is tilted so much that it actually spins sideways. Uranus has rings on it, although they are much smaller than Saturn's and 27 known moons. Uranus is covered in blue clouds made of methane, which gives the lovely color. Very similar to Uranus is Neptune, the 8th planet from the Sun. Neptune is another gas giant, and like Uranus, it has methane in its atmosphere, so it looks like blue. Neptune is darker blue than Uranus, and scientists aren't sure why. Neptune has a few 10 rings and 40 moons that we know about it. Because Neptune is so far out in space, it takes a very long time to go around the Sun. Remember Mercury, that only takes 88 days to go once around the Moon? Poor Neptune takes over 164 years to finish an orbit around the Sun. this last time that Neptune was in the same place it is now was before the American Civil War, before computers, phones, airplanes, or cars have been invented. Neptune has the longest orbit of any planet in the solar system. Now you may think I've got forgotten someone. Pluto. Pluto is discovered in 1930 and was listed as the 9th planet in the solar system. As it was studied longer, scientists realized how small it is. It is much smaller than any other planet in the solar system, and even smaller than many other moons. Plus, people started to discover other small rocky planet objects in space near Pluto, some of them even bigger than Pluto. In 26, after 76 years being listed as a planet, Pluto was declared a dwarf planet to show it was something was a planet, but much smaller. There are at least 6 dwarf planets in the solar system, and possibly many, many more. That leaves us with 8 official planets in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. I hope you enjoyed exploring the solar system with me today. Goodbye till next time.